Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jasmine Payne Patterson, and I have the pleasure of working with some of the fiercest advocates across the South through the Economic Policy Institute's Earn in the South network, which includes grassroots partners, policy and research organizations in 13 states in the Deep South. We're fighting to actualize a strong, just, and equitable South through our shared goals and what we call the Agenda for a Thriving South. We're working towards this vision by supporting policy reforms designed to advance economic and racial equity, especially for Black and Brown people. A key part of our goal is to make sure every Southerner can care for themselves and their loved ones without fear of losing income or employment during some of the most important moments of their lives. And this means that all workers have access to at least 12 weeks of paid leave. Because the United States doesn't have a federal paid leave policy, states have stepped in to lead the way. Across the nation, states have developed and implemented strong, successful, and popular comprehensive paid leave programs. But unfortunately, the South is falling behind. The good news is that several southern states have recently passed laws that take small but important steps to expanding paid leave, often starting with ensuring paid parental leave for public employees and demonstrating the fertile ground for more expansive paid leave policies in southern states. And several southern state legislatures have already begun introducing bills to further expand paid leave this year. So far, Florida, Georgia, and Virginia have already introduced legislation, and we expect to see additional bills in Alabama and Tennessee. I know firsthand how important paid leave is for families. After navigating preeclampsia, an emergency induction, and an extended hospital stay as part of my own birth story, I can't express how important it is, and it was, not to have to worry about how I would pay for my bills on top of everything else. And there was a lot of everything. I was blessed to be in a workplace with a union contract in place guaranteeing paid leave. But for most workers in the state of Georgia, where I live, there's no minimum standard in place guaranteeing any paid leave at all. Today, you'll hear from directly impacted workers, policy experts, advocates, and state lawmakers about why it's time to strengthen paid leave for all across the South and the opportunities for state legislators have to expand paid leave in 2026. We'll reserve time at the end for questions and answers from the media. We'll now hear from Feroza Freeland from A Better Balance to further define the different types of paid leave and the state of paid leave across the country. We'll pass it to Feroza.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Feroza Freeland. I'm the policy director of the Southern Office at A Better Balance, based in our regional Southern office in Nashville, Tennessee. A Better Balance is a national nonprofit organization that advocates for working parents and caregivers, and we have helped pass paid leave policies in states across the country, including here in the South. So we know that this is really a universal issue because at some point throughout all of our lives, we will either need to take time off work to provide care for others or to receive care ourselves. Whether you are welcoming a new child into the family, caring for an aging parent, or going through cancer treatment, no one should have to worry about missing a paycheck or even losing a job. And that is where paid leave comes in. So, paid family and medical leave provides extended time off from work with pay and protects a worker's job when a serious medical or caregiving need comes up. And this is distinct from paid sick days, which are for shorter term, more minor needs, such as a cold or the flu. We know that paid family and medical leave policies are a win-win for families, businesses, and the overall economy. These policies support economic security and improved health outcomes while also keeping individuals with serious medical needs or caregiving needs attached to the workforce. In addition, paid family and medical leave is very politically popular. Polling has repeatedly shown that large majorities of voters across party lines support paid family and medical leave policies. The challenge is that currently only about 27% of workers have access to paid family leave through their employers. And access is also different based on income level. So lower wage workers have even less access to this critical protection. As Jasmine mentioned, the US remains one of the only nations in the world without a national paid leave policy. The Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, only provides unpaid leave, and around 44% of workers are not eligible for FMLA leave. And even for those who are covered, many families simply cannot afford to take several weeks of leave without pay. And so, in the absence of federal action, states have been stepping up to fill in the gaps. There are now 13 states plus DC that have comprehensive statewide paid family and medical leave policies in place that cover nearly all workers in those states, which is really exciting. And there are many more states, as we'll hear today, that are actively considering similar legislation. And also in recent years, Southern states have been leading the way on enacting paid parental and family leave policies for state and local government employees and for public school educators. Currently, almost every Southern state provides some level of paid parental leave for their state government employees. And there are 7 Southern states that have statewide paid parental leave policies that cover all eligible public school educators across their states. And so these public sector wins are really important first steps, but much work remains to ensure that all families across the South have the paid leave that they need for the full range of caregiving and medical needs. So, with legislative sessions beginning, we have a really exciting opportunity to continue to build on the progress that has been made and work towards this vision of paid leave for all families across the South. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us that background, Feroza. Really appreciate you sharing more. We were now going to pass it to Bristeria Clark, a 9 to 5 Georgia fellow, telling her personal story of how it really impacts families not to have paid leave. But unfortunately, a family emergency caused Bristeria not to be able to join us today. But even in her physical absence, her message is still so present with us. We need paid leave for moments just like this. Instead of Bristeria telling her story, she's agreed to let Michelle Save, a 9 to 5 lead organizer for the Georgia Coalition for Paid Leave, to read her testimony. 9 to 5 is a workers' rights organization supporting working women. Thank you for being with us, Michelle.
Thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and read her testimony. All right. Hello, my name is Bristeria Clark, and I am from Roll, Georgia. I would like to share my paid leave story. Let's go back in time in 2015 when I was pregnant with my son. I was so excited. I knew I would be out of work, so I saved money to ensure that I had funds. I ended up having an emergency cesarean, which caused me to be out of work more than I anticipated. After having my son, we ran through my savings. I ended up having to go back to work and picking up a second job, literally working Monday through Friday and Friday nights to Sunday just to afford daily life and childcare. My second check went solely to childcare. I felt like I was robbed time and effort from my son because of not having paid leave, which was out of my control. I was robbed bonding time. I wasn't fully healed from postpartum because I had to go back to work just to care for us. Had paid leave been in effect, this would have assisted me in this area. Childcare back 10 years ago was $150, so I can only imagine what it is now. That is why it's so important for me to continue this race and advocate for paid leave because I am a lived experience and understand the situation fully. Fast forward to present time. My grandmother's memory is slowly progressing, and I care for her. If push comes to shove, I may have to go out to assist her and care for her. Paid leave would be super essential for families like myself. There are so many illnesses in today's society, and paid leave is needed way more today than now than ever. Inflation is skyrocketing, and paid paid leave is a dire need. I want the world to know how vital paid leave is and how bad it's needed. I will continue to fight and advocate for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And we can't wait to thank Bristeria again for bravely sharing her story. And hopefully we can continue to get some clips from Bristeria to share out. Brasteria's story illustrates why every employee needs paid leave. Clerks, teachers, public employees, Black, white, brown employees, and beyond. I'll now pass it to State Senator Jennifer Boysko, Virginia State Senator for District 38, who has exciting updates to share about work underway in Virginia to win paid leave laws that would protect workers like Bristeria, our neighbors, and our friends. Senator Boysko is the chief patron for Senate Bill 2, Virginia's comprehensive paid family and medical leave bill. Without further ado, let's hear from Senator Boysko.
Well, thank you so much, Jasmine. It's good to be here with you all. And a special hello to Dominic from Virginia New Majority, who we work with very closely here in the Commonwealth. I have been working on bringing paid family and medical leave, a universal program. This is my 8th year, and I'm very pleased to say that our brand new Governor, Abigail Spanberger, has made it a part of her platform to get this bill passed this year. We know that there are large companies that already provide this to their executives. We know that, with the federal FMLA law, more than half of the employees in the Commonwealth can't afford to take time off without pay. And so it has been my intention and the intention of my colleague, Brianna Sewell, who serves in the House of Delegates, to provide this benefit for all Virginians because everyone deserves the dignity and the ability to care for themselves and their loved ones and hold on to their jobs and getting some of their paycheck when the biggest things happen. I also have personal story. I also ended up having to deliver my second baby 2 months early. She was in the NIC unit for 6 weeks, and I was 25 miles away from our hospital. My husband didn't have paid leave, and it was a real struggle. And I know that every family throughout Virginia has one story. Many of us have more than one story, and it's difficult for employees to focus on their work when they know that there's something very serious at home, whether it's caring for a loved one who has cancer or themselves, someone who has a very serious car accident, going into recovery, welcoming a new baby into their family, or we happen to have more veterans than any other state in the Commonwealth. I mean, in the country, and caring for someone who is coming back from being deployed in the military. Those things are going to happen. These are not issues that we have control over. So I believe that having the ability to plan for them in a compassionate and caring way that is good for businesses as well as for the employees. It has already been said on this call that we are the only country in the industrialized world that doesn't have a federal paid leave policy. And I'm so proud that Virginia is going to join the 13 other states in the District of Columbia to make Virginia the 14th state that will provide this benefit to their employees.
Thank you so much, Senator Boysko. And thank you for your work. We're so excited to hear from our legislative champions and to know that champions like Senator Boysko are hard at work in every state in the South, in Virginia especially. We know that last year you got so close, it passed both chambers and then it was vetoed by the governor. So we're hoping and we're so glad that that we're going to be making progress in Virginia and in every state in the South this year. It's also important to understand how comprehensive paid policies, as we understand that comprehensive policies support workers, we also should talk about how comprehensive policies support small businesses. So we'll now hear from Rachel Shanklin from the Georgia Small Business Majority to share more about that perspective.
Thanks, Jasmine. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Shanklin, and I am the Georgia Director for Small Business Majority. We are a national small business organization that empowers America's diverse entrepreneurs to build a thriving and equitable economy. Small businesses are the backbone of Georgia's economy, making up more than 99% of all businesses in our state and employing close to half of our workforce. Policymakers love touting that we are the number one state for business, but they fail to mention that we are just 45th in the quality of life. One reason is because Georgia does not yet offer statewide paid family and medical leave protections. Small Business Majority's research found that nearly half of small business owners have had employees take extended leave to care for a new child, for their own health needs, or to care for a family member with serious illness. Despite this clear need, most small businesses can't afford to offer paid family and medical leave to their employees. It's important for our state legislators to help bridge this gap for small businesses by empowering entrepreneurs to provide quality benefits for their employees. A state-run paid family and medical leave program would level the playing field for small businesses, allowing them to better compete with big businesses that are able to afford to offer this benefit. This would make it easier for them to recruit and retain talented workers, as company size wouldn't dictate if an employee could take time away from work when it matters most. Additionally, paid leave enhances productivity and improves workplace morale. Offering paid leave isn't just the right thing to do, it does make good business sense. What's more is a state-run program would not place a large financial or administrative burden on small businesses. Workers and some employers pay into the insurance program, and the state runs claims and pays benefits. States that have already adopted paid leave programs, like New York, report positive effects. It's manageable for small businesses, and entrepreneurs say that it's easier to manage long employee absences. Legislators in other states have designed features that are explicitly small business friendly. For instance, employers with fewer than 10 employees in Colorado are exempt from paying an employer contribution, so as not to create any financial stress on the smallest businesses. Self-employed entrepreneurs can voluntarily enroll in Oregon's program so they can protect their income and keep their businesses open. Furthermore, programs in all states require documentation to eliminate widespread abuse. The fight for paid leave in Georgia is gaining momentum. In 2024, state policymakers passed HB 1010, which expanded parental leave for state employees from 3 to 6 weeks. While this is a good step, it doesn't meet the needs of the small business community. We're calling on the legislature to expand current legislation to pass a comprehensive state-run program that provides up to 12 weeks of paid leave for all enrollees. This program would let small businesses plan for life's biggest disruptions without losing people or profits, and solo entrepreneurs, small business employees, and independent workers could care for themselves and their families without losing their jobs. 13 and almost 14 other states and Washington, D.C. already offer paid leave. None of those states, however, are located in the South. Let's make 2026 the year Georgia steps up as the regional leader and supports small businesses by joining the ranks of the states that already offer paid family and medical leave. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Really appreciate that you sharing that perspective. And we hear a pattern here. Paid leave is important, and there's a need in the South, and hearing about all the different states that are moving along, and we want to be able to say this for the South as well. Paid leave is an important way to support our entire economy, and it's so important to support our workers and small businesses. I'll now pass it to Keisa Smith Brantley, the Executive Director for Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, to share more on how to inform the public about developments in paid leave so we can make that a reality.
Thanks, Jasmine. As Jasmine noted, my name is Keisa Smith Brantley. I'm the Executive Director of Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. We are an almost 50-year-old organization that has been focused on policies and programs that will help benefit our children and thus uplift not just our children, but their families as well. And our goal in Arkansas is the same as you've been hearing from all the other participants, and that is that we want to see a comprehensive paid family and medical leave bill, not just for Arkansas, but for the entire South. And we are hoping to join the progress that has happened in other states in the South in order to see that happening here. for Arkansas Advocates for Children and Family, we're launching our paid leave campaign, understanding that paid leave is good for families, maternal health, workers, and Arkansas business, with a specific focus on maternal health, because I imagine that many of you all who are familiar with Arkansas know that unfortunately for us, in the areas of maternal health, we tend to rank, if not the lowest, one of the lowest states pertaining to maternal health and infant health. And so we've been holding focus groups, and conducting research, and building the public awareness and broad-based coalitions that we need to achieve paid leave policies that will support working families across our state. Because what we have seen, in these focus groups and in talking, with individuals across the state, is that even though Arkansas is a state that has focused very heavily on business and business recruitment, what we are not doing is having a concentrated focus on our workers. And so we see young individuals that, are struggling to determine how they're going to build their families, as they're trying to establish themselves in their jobs and where they may not have a lot of leave. We also see individuals trying to balance unpaid leave and family medical leave in order to prepare for things like maternity leave. And we're also seeing things, like Gen X workers who are trying to balance, both the caring of their children while also trying to make sure that they are able to care for their aging parents. So a number of things that we know are not unique to Arkansas, that many individuals are experiencing, but yet, workers are still trying to navigate that. And so, in our state, we have made progress on paid leave recently, but still have a long way to go. For example, Arkansas has passed a good law guaranteeing 12 weeks of paid leave to public school teachers, and we are one of only two states that covers the cost of substitute teachers when teachers go on maternity leave. However, the law is too limited and doesn't address the real needs of most families. It only covers employees who are, quote, female, and the leave is used for maternity purposes. So while there's been progress on closing these gaps in other southern states, Arkansas is still building, the support we need to secure paid leave for our neighbors, teachers, and ourselves. Southern workers should not be forced to choose between their livelihood and the health and well-being of themselves or their loved ones. And so we are working, to make sure that we are helping the media share the latest developments on paid leave, by offering interviews, data, and whatever else we need to do to ensure that we can join the other Southern states in celebrating, that we're going to have paid leave very soon. So, with that, Jasmine, thank you for allowing us to share.
Thanks, Keitha. We look forward to celebrating with you. Now, in the chat, we'll post a list of bills that have been introduced so far this year in southern states, including the legislation mentioned by our speakers today. Virginia has introduced a comprehensive paid family medical leave bill, which we strive to replicate across the South because it's the only bill we've heard about today that would protect all workers in the state. We also support bills introduced in other states to expand coverage to select public employees because they are a critical step forward to protect more workers and to show that paid leave empowers and strengthens our workforce, our health, and our community. I'm now going to open the floor for some questions from the press, and we ask that you please use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or you can feel free to submit your questions via the chat. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with some questions that I already have thus far. So our first question is that what work is being done to actualize strong paid leave policies? And I think that this is a great question for Michelle, who leads 9 to 5's work on this. So I'll pass it to Michelle to answer that question.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. And just wanted to uplift and ground earlier. What Rachel said is that here in Georgia, through our coalition, we were able to pass the first ever paid leave policy in the state, 6 weeks of paid parental leave, for public sector workers. And I think one of the key things is broad base building, for the coalition. So talking to every single group, right? We know that paid leave impacts all sectors, it impacts the workers, it impacts the businesses. So we have, our coalition has done a really great job in creating points of like engagement with community members to educate on what paid leave is, but more importantly, to also hear from the community, right? Like Bristiria's story of what is the impact of not having paid leave. And I think the other aspect of it too is really for the folks that we engage with, whether they're business owners or workers, how we amplify stories and how we share stories and with who is important. One of the things really effective, like tactic that we have done is every year during our legislative session, we organize advocacy days at the Capitol, where we make it accessible for workers across the state to join us, providing, food, transportation, training on how to speak on the issues of paid leave and really making the connections to people's personal lives. This year, we're hosting our Advocacy Day, which will be paid leave focus on Tuesday, February 17th, from 8 to 1 at the Capitol. And so that's just something to consider is that while we're doing the broad-based relationship building, making sure that we're channeling our communities' stories, their grief, to decision makers and to others to bring more people into our movement.
So, all right, we have another question here, and it is how would expanded paid leave affect families, workers, businesses, employers, etc.? And I'm going to open that up to anybody who wants to respond to that question. Any of our speakers who would like to respond?
I can give an anecdote if that's okay.
Please
Um,
do.
So, working with small business owners day in and day out, we always hear stories about how specific policies or lack of policies impact them. I spoke with a small business owner a few months ago, and essentially, he is losing his employees because an Amazon plant was built down the road. And we all know that Amazon can provide more benefits than a smaller business. I think he had like less than 10 employees, but because he was not able to offer these essential benefits like paid leave, he's actually losing out on his workforce because they are going to bigger businesses. So that's why it's really important to have this type of policy because it's a workforce issue. It's not just a moral issue, but folks are actually losing their employees and their workforce because they can't compete with bigger businesses. So it's impacting local economies.
And just to
Rachel.
build Oh, sorry. Just to build on to that, what Rachel was saying, the structure of these comprehensive paid family and medical leave policies really does benefit small businesses in particular, as Rachel shared earlier, because it allows the costs to be shared. Many states allow the smallest businesses to participate in the program without paying anything into the program. Some states have even created grant funding to support small businesses with any associated costs. So this is really a policy that helps level the playing field in that way, and helps small businesses compete, as Rachel said.
And I'm I'm just going to piggyback on what everyone has said thus far, which is that, I think at the beginning of this press conference, we've been talking a lot about what workers' needs, and that is who we should be focused on. But we don't talk enough about the fact that this is also beneficial to businesses. Um, Sometimes we assume that paid leave is something that families have the ability to access. And what we see in Arkansas is, yes, we do have many major companies here, but a good amount of our companies do not have the level of, the size that would allow for them to provide this leave. And they are experiencing high turnover and workers going from jobs to jobs. So I will ditto what Rachel said as it pertains to stability and the fact that this is a critical service that many of our folks need, not just our workers, but also our businesses.
Thanks, you all. I appreciate you sharing. Yeah, it just reminds us that paid leave helps us to pay the bills so that we can care for our families and so we can get back to work, which, like you said, it reduces the cost for the businesses because it allows them to not have to hire and retrain new employees when we can keep the really great workers who are there already. And then the workers can also provide for their families. So it's a win-win. All right, so we'll now transition to the next question. How can access to paid leave address racial and gender disparities? And I'll open it up to any of the participants who would like to respond.
I think one thing that we see across our southern states is really alarmingly high rates of maternal and infant mortality, particularly for Black mothers and babies. And we know that there are a wide range of health benefits from paid leave policies, including, allowing for proper recovery from childbirth or related medical conditions, encouraging breastfeeding, which has a lot of health benefits for both moms and babies. There's research to show that paid leave reduces postpartum depression and supports better mental health. It allows for new babies to get their critical medical checkups on time. And there are so many, health benefits from this. And so I really feel that paid leave is one piece of the larger strategy to address our high maternal and infant mortality rates.
So I would be remiss if I don't jump in and equally talk about maternal health and same as it pertains to Arkansas and our poor maternal health outcomes, but also one of the things pertaining to paid leave that is critical for workers is the fact that we see many expecting parents that don't get prenatal care. Because they do not have paid leave. So they do not have the opportunity to take off work in order to get the care that they need. Arkansas is also a state that is losing our practitioners, meaning that if you are in rural Arkansas and are pregnant and have to see a practitioner just for your general care, you may be traveling 30 to 45 minutes, meaning that's not a lunch break. You can't go to the doctor during, a 45-minute lunch break. You're going to have to take half a day in order to go see your doctor. And if that's not available to parents, then we see the outcomes that have unfortunately been very prevalent in the state of Arkansas, not to mention all of the things that we discuss pertaining to what happens after individuals deliver and having to go back to work without being able to bond with your child and also experiencing postpartum depression. And so maternal health is just one. Again, as we talked about earlier, the number of families trying to juggle aging parents and how to support them, which is often not covered in our leave structures. So many things that families are dealing with, but particularly Black and Brown families in Arkansas that do not have the access to high wage jobs that would often offer this type of leave.
I'm so glad you uplifted, especially prenatal care, Kisa, as you're talking about in various rural areas or even in areas that are closer to hospitals. That time to get the prenatal care is often not something we discuss a lot, and that's an important part of paid leave. So you can pay for the appointments, and then even in my story, if you follow all the guidance and get all the prenatal care, you can still end up in the hospital for a week. And for many employees, they may only have 2 weeks of paid leave for the year. And that's why we need a comprehensive program to say, hey, this is why it takes more than 2 weeks. And, you don't know what complications may arise even afterwards, a year later, when you need paid sick leave to just tend to the random little germs that are shared through the daycare centers. So all of these types of leave work together and they're all so important. Paid family and medical leave and paid sick leave. All right. If none of our other speakers has a response for that question. Oh, Rachel, you're off mute, so
I just
I'll hand it to you.
I had one other thing. Definitely dittoing the maternal health piece, but I also wanted to say that paid leave reduces income and wealth gaps, especially for women, Black, Latina, Indigenous, and immigrant women working in lower wages and hourly jobs. Without paid leave, taking off means job loss or wages loss, which contributes to the wealth gap already. We all know that women are still paid less than men, but this definitely puts us back a couple of steps if it's not offered. Just wanted to flag that as well.
Thanks, Rachel. So, so important to flag. Really appreciate that. All right. And I'm going to just read some more questions. However, please do feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand function in Zoom or to pop your question in the chat if you have any others. So what are some of the limitations of paid leave laws that Southerners have enacted thus far?
I can start and then happy for other folks to jump in as well. So as we mentioned earlier, it has been really exciting to see Southern states enact so many paid parental leave policies for public sector employees. And at the same time, there are a lot of ways that we could expand on those public sector policies and then also discuss, the need to cover all workers in the private sector as well. So, for example, as I mentioned, many of the state government employee policies and the public educators policies are paid parental leave only. And as Kisa just mentioned, we know that families need paid leave for a broad range of caregiving and medical needs, not just when they welcome a new child into the family. And so, talking about expanding those public sector policies, Tennessee was one of the states that last year expanded their parental leave policy for state government employees to cover family caregiving when a loved one is at the end of life. And so that's, again, an example of a step forward, but we know that, public sector employees need leave for the full range of caregiving. There are also many of these policies that maybe only provide 6 weeks of paid leave, when we know that, 12 weeks is really what our families need, and that's kind of, the standard. And so there are many ways that Southern states can continue to expand on those public sector policies, and we are seeing that more and more. At the same time, we know that private sector workers really need this benefit, as we've discussed, both working families and for businesses, right? They need that infrastructure that a statewide paid family and medical leave program provides, the cost sharing and reducing the administrative burden on a smaller or mid-sized business that wants to provide this, but they need a little bit more support to do that. And so that's where the statewide policies come in. And I think it's really exciting, though. Most of these public sector policies have gotten bipartisan support. And so it's really building momentum in our southern states for this issue, and for states to understand, these policies work really well. They have benefits for employers, and hopefully we use that to continue to build towards the comprehensive policies that we need.
Yeah, I feel like we keep saying ditto, and that's so much because many of our policies, mirror one another. So, um, exactly the same. We're limited in Arkansas, even though we've made progress, but the same in that we haven't considered private sector employees. We started with state employees and then moved to public school teachers. Again, progress, but does not consider all of the other individuals that are much in need of this of paid leave. And, as we see in many southern states, we're only talking about women and we're only talking about maternity leave. So we're excluding fathers and excluding what role fathers play in, maternal health and the support of a child. And equally, we don't consider all of the other major life events that happen that families need to be able to have leave for in order to prepare for. So a good number of opportunities is the best way to say it in terms of improvement that we can make and leave and that's accessible to families.
Yes, I just plus one to what everyone is saying here. And to add on to like the private sector point and thinking about who is the workforce, more and more workers are being pushed towards the gig economy, right? So workers who are our Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, like just thinking about, I think one challenge too is like even broadening what we mean when we say private sector. And also historically, labor that hasn't been recognized by like federal law as like deserving of protection. So, such as caregivers and domestic workers, which goes back to the previous question of like the gender and racial gap. And so, I think one of the points I wanted to uplift in Bristaria's story was the fact that she is to be a caregiver for both her children and her grandmother, right? And so many of our families are coming into the circumstance where we're becoming the sandwich generation, right? Caregivers for two separate generations. And so I think just to add that, who are we talking about when we say the private sector and making sure, we're including people in non-traditional work and those who haven't been recognized by federal law.
Michelle and Kisa and Froza, but I'm gonna dig in on two words you all said, like who are we missing, and also opportunity, because I do think that there is an opportunity here when we're thinking about the different ways that our families um, are showing up for us, and like how one family may look different from another family, and we want to make sure, regardless of that family dynamic, that we're making sure that everybody in that household has access to paid leave and the protections as such. We also want to make sure that we are thinking, including a bunch of different types of leave. So, Rosa mentioned end of life care, but in the Earn in the South paid leave policy agenda, we're talking about paid family and medical leave, we're talking about paid sick leave, we're talking about paid safe leave, and all of them are important to making sure that the members of our household are safe, are healthy, are able to return to work, are able to live wonderful, thriving lives. I will now just share one more question, and then really want to leave it open if anybody else has any questions that you want to pop in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand. So, what is paid family and medical leave, or in shorthand, PFML's relationship with the Family and Medical Leave Act, which we often refer to as FMLA, the federal floor for leave from work? And I know, Feroza, you touched on this a little bit earlier if you wanted to expand a little bit.
Sure. So as I mentioned, FMLA, which has been in place for over 30 years now, it only requires unpaid leave. So that's one big limitation because, as we've said, many families cannot afford that, especially when you're talking about needing multiple weeks off of work. You could think about a cancer patient who's going through chemotherapy, um, and all the expenses that come along with that, and then to have to think about taking several weeks without pay. So that's a limitation. But we also know that, as I mentioned, around 44% of workers are not eligible for FMLA leave. That could be because they have not worked long enough to qualify, or they haven't worked enough hours. That could be because they work for a smaller employer with fewer than 50 employees who's not covered by FMLA. There's many different reasons why a large segment of the workforce are not covered by FMLA leave. And so, paid family and medical leave policies really step in to fill in those gaps and to, provide that wage replacement, to protect a worker's job, which is really important. So you cannot be fired just for taking leave or for needing leave. Your employer cannot retaliate against you. And, to make sure that you have that income, that you keep your health insurance. So, I think over 30 years ago, FMLA was, again, a really important first step that was taken federally. But clearly there's a lot of shortcomings, and there's a need to really expand and build on that to meet the needs of families, especially in today's economy.
Ms. Rosa. Yeah, I've gotten that question a couple of times. It's like, why do we need paid leave? We already have FMLA. Didn't we do it? And it's like, no, we didn't. We didn't do it. It's not paid for certain, it's only for certain employees, and under narrow circumstances and every other reason that Rosa said. So there's still work to be done, and some clarification to be made for our community members to really understand how we can protect and cover more employees. Well, I'll just give one more minute, well, one more moment in case anyone has an additional question. All right. Well, hearing none, we're always happy to answer questions as a follow-up. But in the meantime, I just want to thank you so much for joining us for the Earn in the South Paid Leave Press Conference. We need strong paid sick, family, and medical leave systems across the South to protect the dignity and humanity of Southern workers and their families, and to provide time for them and their families to recover from illness or injury, bond, and care for new family members. So thank you to all of our speakers for sharing their expertise and for leading the way towards making comprehensive paid family and medical leave for all a reality across the South. We'll see you next time. Thank you.